I'm Hailey.
I'm sitting on the balcony of my friend's apartment, the cool evening air brushing against my face. The city below is alive with the hum of traffic and the soft murmur of voices. But my mind is far away, lost in the events of the past few days. Just a short while ago, I was watching the news, and the anchor's voice cut through the room like a knife. Breaking news out of Portland tonight. Police have responded to a violent assault in the Rosewood neighborhood. My heart skipped a beat as I saw the image of a dimly lit apartment building, police tape strung across the entrance, and flashing red and blue lights. I knew immediately who it was. It was Kyle. Kyle had been my boyfriend for a few years. At first, he was charming, kind, and attentive. But as time went on, the cracks began to show. He became possessive, jealous, and violent. He would come home drunk, his anger boiling over at the slightest provocation. And that night, it was the worst it had ever been. I remember the moment his hands closed around my throat like it was yesterday. I felt something inside me snap, not a bone or a sound, but the last thread of hope that he would ever change. His breath was hot and reeked of alcohol as he hissed words I couldn't understand. My vision blurred, and I clawed at his wrists, but it was no use. Then instinct took over. I drove my knee forward with all my strength, and he groaned, his grip loosening for a split second. That was all I needed. I tore away from him, gasping for air that burned my lungs. I didn't think. I didn't look back. I grabbed my bag and my jacket and ran out the door. His voice echoed behind me, "Hailey, get back here." But I kept going, my legs moving on autopilot. The cold November air slapped me in the face, but I barely felt it. All I could think about was getting away from him. I ran across the street without looking, and a passing car splashed me with water. But I didn't stop. I could still hear his voice in my head, and I knew what he was capable of. I saw a bus pulling up at the stop, and I sprinted towards it, waving my arms frantically. The driver, a middle-aged woman with a kind face, hesitated for a moment, then opened the doors. I climbed aboard, my heart pounding, my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped my bag. I sat down in the middle of the bus, and as the adrenaline began to fade, the pain set in. I looked at my reflection in the window. My hair was a mess, my mascara was streaked, and there was a dark bruise forming on my cheek. My neck throbbed, and when I touched it, I winced at the finger marks. As I sat there, lost in my thoughts, an elderly woman sat down beside me. She didn't say a word at first, just looked at me. Her eyes moved over my bruises, and I felt self-conscious. When the bus slowed for the next stop, she stood up and adjusted her handbag. Just before she got off, she turned to me and said, "He will kill you." And then the doors closed, and she was gone. Those words haunted me. I knew she was right. I had nowhere to go. My parents lived in another state, and Kyle had done a good job of pushing me away from my friends. But there was one person I could think of, Lily. Lily and I had been friends since college. She was the one who had tried to warn me about Kyle early on, but I didn't listen. Kyle had convinced me that she was jealous and manipulative, and I stopped seeing her. But now, she was my only hope. I got off the bus in the neighborhood where Lily lived. It was cold and dark, and I was scared. I walked towards her apartment building, each step feeling like a struggle. When I finally reached her door, my hands were shaking so much that I almost missed the doorbell. The door opened, and Lily's eyes widened in shock when she saw me. The mug she was holding slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. "Oh my God, Hailey," she said, and she pulled me into her arms. I buried my face in her shoulder and sobbed. I felt safe for the first time in a long time. Lily took care of me that night. She got me a first aid kit and listened as I told her everything that had happened. She wasn't surprised. She worked at a women's shelter, and she had seen this kind of thing before. She told me that I had to go to the hospital and the police, that I needed to get a restraining order. The next morning, we went to the hospital. The triage nurse took one look at my neck and immediately called for a forensic nurse. The forensic nurse, a calm woman named Sarah, was gentle as she examined me and took photos of my injuries. She explained that these photos would be important evidence if I decided to press charges. After the hospital, we went to the police station. An officer named Officer Thompson listened to my story. His expression hardened when I described what Kyle had done. He said that it was enough for a criminal complaint and that they would try to contact Kyle. He gave me a copy of the report and told me to call 911 if Kyle came near me. We also went to the Women's Crisis Resource Center. Two counselors there explained to me that what I was going through was a common pattern in domestic violence. They told me about the trauma response, the isolation, and the financial control. They helped me schedule an appointment with a therapist and walked me through the steps of getting emergency housing and a new phone number. Back at Lily's apartment, I was still shaken. Every noise made me jump, and I couldn't sleep. Then, the news about Kyle's assault on another woman came on. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I thought it was my fault. I thought he was looking for me. But Lily wouldn't let me blame myself. She told me that Kyle's actions were his own, that I was not responsible for what he did. She held me as I cried, and slowly, I began to believe her. In the days that followed, I decided to find the elderly woman on the bus. I retraced my steps, asking bus drivers and store clerks if they knew her. Finally, after a few days of searching, I found her. Her name was Mrs. Jenkins, and she had spent decades working with women who had been in abusive relationships. She welcomed me into her home and explained how she could tell I was in danger. She said that the signs were there in my posture, my injuries, and the look in my eyes. She gave me some resources and her personal number, telling me to call if I needed anything. As I left her house, I felt a little stronger. I knew that I still had a long way to go, but I was no longer alone. I was believed and I was safe. Now, as I sit on the balcony, looking at the city lights, I know that I have a new beginning. It won't be easy, but I'm ready to take the first steps towards rebuilding my life. I'm alive, and that's all that matters. I whisper to myself, I get to start over. And for the first time in a long time, I believe it.